Okay, sorry that I already started. So in this first part, yes, in this first part, she introduces herself. She's the only person talking. It's the beginning of a story, and she elaborates that she is going to teach us how to put in a zipper. So she's explaining that this is going to be sort of an instructional video, if you will. So I don't know if tone is important to this discourse analysis thing, but she's definitely being very, I don't know if sarcastic is the right word, but she's definitely sort of aggressively challenging the audience and assuming that they don't know how to sew. So she's going to explain how to sew. That's why she's elaborating that she doesn't know, that she assumes that most people don't know how to. And so she's setting up the next part, which will be about that. I think in a way the next part is a list. She talks about the different parts of the machine, the wheel, the needle, the metal plate. So I think that she's sort of organizing things in a category. So she's, continuing to explain what's happening. I think that when she goes back and reemphasizes, you really have to hold the fabric, she's sort of stopping the flow of information and taking it back, but I think it's because she is emphasizing that. Still emphasizing that the amount of pressure is important. So emphasis. So she now sets up two different options so that you can put the zipper in before you finish the garment or after you finish the garment. So there are now two different paths that we could take, and maybe she's going to choose to focus on one of them. So by saying that one way is easier, she suggests that that's where we are going to continue with this text. So she says that if we're going to do it one way, we need to start with the pieces. So she's setting up that now the person needs to go and get these pieces. That's clearly important. And she says she's going to talk about both of them. So there will be two sets of information. So she introduces the topic of the skirt, which is transitioning into the next part where we're actually going to try sewing it. We're no longer learning about how to sew. We're going to do it. And then she says again, for new sewers, I think it's best to do the basting technique. So it's going to be a change of topic. She's going to explain what that means, but then also she is, what was I saying? I still think if emphasis is a thing, then I think that that's what's happening. So she uses the words very important and totally, that this piece of information that's about to happen is extremely important and that the listener should be paying a lot of attention. So she uses, I would say, a contrastive structure. I feel like I made that word up the way that I pronounced it. So she says, new sewers do this, this is what you should do. So by setting up a contrast, it again further emphasizes what needs to be done, but it also suggests things, it's almost like a troubleshooting technique. So make sure you don't do this. I've already said that is not the right way. Again, using totally, cannot see the zipper, very important that that part is done correctly. She sort of is giving steps now. Lift up the lever, and so on and so forth. So this is like a 1, 2, 3 things that need to happen. I don't know if it was exactly 3, um, but by making a list again, sort of sorts, it's structuring the text. Again, sort of a contrast by saying that the right side is the better side to start with. So now we've transitioned into actually using the sewing machine, which will be the next part. So she says, now, if you know anything about zippers, which is going to transition to the next part, which is her talking about why it's difficult to sew the top part of a zipper. So that is clearly a transition. We're no longer just sewing anymore. We are, again, sort of troubleshooting part of this. And later on in the text, she's going to explain how to deal with that situation. So she says, stop. This is where we're going to use the wheel. We're going back to something she referenced all the way at the beginning of the text. And this is a transition between the right side of the skirt and the left side of the skirt and going forward. Move it over as sort of a transition into the next side of the skirt. When you finish with that, is going to move on to the next part where she's going to talk about how to deal with the difficult part of the zipper. I think I'm going to stop the video because I think that you can't do more than 10 minutes at a time, so please hold.